That hasn't been FranklinCovey for the last 10 years, approximately. We thought we'd just give an overview of what FranklinCovey does, and just by show of hands, how many of you are analysts or investors in the investment side versus practitioners? Mostly practitioners, people who are actually working with people to make a change. I just want to orient my comments accordingly. Let me just start off therefore the financial metrics may not make as much sense, or you might not care about that as much, but FranklinCovey sold its consumer business in 2008. Since then has focused entirely on this topic of changing behavior in organizations around the world. We've had significant growth since then, and really we talk about it as an organization that we try to create the connection between capability and outcomes. And so that's, there are a lot of training organizations. We were one of those too that built a lot of individual capabilities. And those individuals become more capable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their organization wins. And so for us, the key is bridging that gap. I'm not sure where I point that to get it, but in any event, making the bridge between the capabilities at the individual level and leadership and the outcomes that organizations are really trying to get. To give you an idea of why that's such a big, important idea, every organization has variability in its performance, right? That's just a given. But every organization also has pockets of great performance. This circle over on the right side is that this is actually a representation of two large hotel companies, nationally known, world-known hotel companies, and it measures their guest satisfaction, their revenue per available room, and profitability. And you can see that the top 20% of these two chains is virtually identical. They both know how to do it. They both know how to serve good meals, check people in, make up a good bed, etc. They both have variability. The difference, this red dotted line, is that one of the organizations has been able to institutionalize what they already know how to do well. Their curve is righter and tighter. It's actually Marriott. And so what's happened is that even though both organizations know how to do a perfect room and a perfect check-in, and they train all their people to do it, Marriott is actually much better than its competitors in institutionalizing, getting its people every day to volunteer their best efforts to do that. And that comes from a wholesale change in human behavior. So Marriott's methodology, Marriott uses the FranklinCovey methodology and execution through all of the Americas, and that's been a major driver, they would say, and they have said in their public announcements, that they're getting 1 million team commitments, moving little by little, righter and tighter. And so that's really what FranklinCovey is about, whether it's in sales performance or building trust in organizations or customer loyalty or whatever the practice area happens to be. The idea is to not only change individuals' behaviors, but to get large numbers of people within the same organization to change the behaviors so that the organization itself gets the benefit. We think that we kind of have three areas of focus in terms of trying to build strength in offerings for those who are our customers or our clients. One is what we call best-in-class content. George Merck, the founder of Merck, more than 100 years ago, made the observation. He said, that Merck is about the people. He said, it's about solving, and it's about the medicine that helps people. He said, whenever we've remembered that, we've never failed to be profitable. It's only when we focused on profit for profit's sake that we failed to be profitable. And so this idea of having best-in-class solutions, or serum in this metaphor, so that the best content for solving those problems is in the hands of our clients, and so they can utilize that. The second is, to have most flexible delivery modalities so that an organization like Marriott or anybody else could implement this get the water all the way to the end of the row. They might use live training in some circumstances, coaching in others, film libraries in others, but it's to provide flexibility in getting the water to the end of the road. And then having this kind of broadest reach and distribution, be able to reach worldwide. Many of our organizations that are our clients, make up more than 4,000 client organizations, are global, and they want the ability to deliver this impact globally. And so we have now, as I'll note in a minute, a broad reach in over 150 countries, where in those countries, if your organization operates there, you can implement the solution exactly in the same way. So let's first of all talk about best-in-class serum. Obviously, no one's out there saying, well, I've got the worst-in-class content, so how would you know? And so for us, it's not so much a competitive idea as it is to try to say that we really want to make sure that it's the most impactful. So for us, we measure it in three ways. One, if it's best in class, it'll actually have longevity. We have, of the 5 courses or content areas that have ever exceeded $1 billion of total revenue cumulatively, 3 of those are inside FranklinCovey. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, our time management content, and now our trust content is moving toward that. And so the idea of having the most impactful content, one metric is longevity. We expect that 100 years from now, just like this hotel 100 years from now, will probably look pretty close to what it does now, because every 3 years they change all the soft goods, every 5 years, 5 to 6 years, all the hard goods, every 7 to 9 redo all the public areas. In a similar way, in our content, there's ongoing investment that is tens of millions of dollars each year to revise and refine content to make sure that it's still best in class. A second metric that we look at is, does it become the standard for how organizations actually implement with their people? And so for us, the big metric is, do they view this as so central to how they run their business that organizations will certify their own champions and coaches to implement the content throughout the organization? At any given time, we have more than 9,000 active teachers and coaches inside organizations that are employees of these organizations who are implementing the content themselves. And then third, perhaps as the market test, are people willing to actually invest their own money to have the chance to represent us? We have a licensee network that generates more than 100 million of revenue, where individuals in Germany or France or Brazil or whatever have capitalized their business for the exclusive opportunity to represent FranklinCovey. And so that's, in this area, we invest a significant portion of our revenue every year in research and development. We have these certain practice areas where around sales performance or customer loyalty or execution or trust or leadership or education, we have significant ongoing investments. And so we're not trying to do everything, but in the areas where we play, we want to have our clients know that if they partner with us, they can count on the world's best content with a team that's willing to and able to help them. The second is this most flexible delivery modalities. We have all the delivery modalities, and so many times we're asked, well, gosh, what percentage of your time, we used to be at least asked, what percentage of your content is delivered online? And we say, well, we're happy to answer that question, but we think it's the wrong question, because most people do in fact approach it that way. They pick a modality like online or coaching or something like that, and then they do the best they can to have impact. Our view is exactly the opposite. We're trying to have impact first, because that our organization, our clients expect to get results, and then we utilize all the different delivery modalities in order to deliver that impact. So at Marriott, it might be live face-to-face certification of their general managers in the U.S. It might be done live online in South America. Their pre-shift meetings might be from our 130 single-point lesson library or whatever it is. So the idea is make it flexible so that people can use it. Most recently, we've taken all the different practices that we've built up over the years that became the industry-leading practices, and decided that many of our clients have such a broad range of needs that we'd take all the content and put it all into a single pass. And so this new all-access pass that was introduced a year or so ago gives an organization access to all the content in FranklinCovey's broad library of content, all the services that go with it. That circle around it says that in addition to buying all the content, there are also additional services that people can add on to make sure that if they've got a specific problem they're trying to solve, that they can get that addressed. It includes unlimited access to the entire collection of FranklinCovey's content. It includes almost unlimited delivery flexibility through any of a variety of combinations of the modalities. We have preset hundreds of these impact journeys that somebody can pick a specific thing they're trying to do. Like, hey, I've got a leader who's the new leader at the divisional level or above. And they want to, they need to do two things in the first year. They need to establish the foundation for how they're interacting with all their stakeholders, maybe based in trust, and they need to get some big, hairy, audacious goal done, might be based in our execution methodology, and those are combined into an impact journey, or frontline leader development, or whatever it might be. It provides an implementation specialist that goes with this, so you're not just getting a bundle of content, but you're getting somebody who's actually dedicated to help you implement it just as part of the past price. So you're not being nickel and dime to get to implement it. You're just saying, that person's dedicated to me to make sure that I'm successful in what I do. And beyond that, then you can use that across the world because it's now available in all 16 major languages. And the cost per population trained, actually, despite the fact you're getting all the world's best content on the topic, with somebody to help you implement it, the cost of implementation per person is the same basically as it would be to buy just a normal course from another provider. And this has provided a lot of value for our clients. From a financial perspective, many of you may not care as much, but these two slides just show that it's taken off. From a start 18 months ago, it'll do a little over 60 million we expect of revenue in this year alone, and probably moving close to 100 million next year. It's just being adopted wholesale by our clients. It's doing three things. It's increasing the average, and it's increasing, the whole idea is to increase the lifetime value of our customers. We want customers for life who are finding value through life, who can trust us to be their partner for life. What's happened is the average order size has been larger, not because the price per person is higher, but because now that they know they can have access to the content for lots of different problems, they're buying it from much larger populations than they traditionally did. Second, the renewal rate on revenue has, it's early on, we're only into the second year of the pass, but it's been more than 90%. And in addition, they're buying add-on services for specific things. And so the lifetime value, it appears, is going to be significantly larger. For us, from a mission standpoint, that's really what we want, because it means that people are finding value. More than 2/3 of those who have renewed the pass, of the 90% of revenue plus that has renewed each year or each quarter, 2/3 of them the passes have increased their pass size. They've got increased populations. I'll skip over some of this financial stuff, and just maybe this other thing might be interesting, is that, again, for many of our clients, they have a global workforce, and they want to be able to reach them. The blue country, or I guess our green on this one, we have direct offices in the US and Canada, Australia, Japan, China, and the UK. And so those are direct offices, but we also have a licensing network in more than 100 other countries. And from a financial perspective, it generates more than 100 million of revenue, just the licensee network. We build it not so much for the financial impact as it was for the impact on our clients, so they could trust us globally to be able to reach out. We recently had an implementation for a large technology firm in 73 different countries. And there was only one country where they had to bring in a consultant from the adjacent country. Otherwise, we had uniform capability across the world, and that's what we're trying to do. We think we have lots of opportunity for growth because there are lots of opportunity where you need change in human behavior. We have 4,000 active accounts, clients in the US. The average lifetime value of each of those is growing. We have another 7,000 accounts that are assigned to the sales force in the US. There's plenty of opportunity there. We have another 80,000 plus accounts just in the US alone that aren't even assigned to a salesperson today. And so we expect that eventually we'll have, from our more than 200 direct salespeople today in US, Canada, Japan, Australia, China, and the UK, that will ultimately reach more than 1,000. So we see a big headwind of opportunity. We want to be the most impactful wherever we are. Our content goes ahead of us. The best-selling books and other things help to establish the foundation. Not long ago, I had a meeting in India with the Minister of Education in India. And on that day, they had established mandatory free education for every kid in India for the first time ever. And so in the US, there are 101,000 K through 6 schools. In India, 746,000 K through 6 schools. We have more than 2,000 schools. In our education divisions, we kind of have two businesses, our All Access Pass Co., you might call it, and Education Co. Our education business now for K through 6 is more than a $50 million business with more than 3,000 schools, 2,000 in the US, where it's called The Leader in Me, where it approaches the whole instruction, everything else from the perspective that every kid can be a leader. And they get assignments in school, they can take responsibility for their work. And so this is a program that's going around the world. But the point is that even in a country like India, where our reach is, our penetration is not very deep at all, nevertheless, all of our major books were on the bookshelf of the Minister of Education. The Prime Minister of India offered a meeting as well. And so the influence that we have from having the strongest content allows us to penetrate other areas and gives us the chance to have impact with clients, governments, et cetera, around the world. So I'll just finish and say that we, without going all the metrics of our sales force, that for us, from a business perspective, we think we actually have built these competitive moats, so to speak, and they'll help us to serve our clients. And because we've put so much resource behind it for so long, we've invested more than $150 million just in content development just in the last 8 years. And so we continue to make major investments there. And that's one of the big things. We continue to invest in all the modalities and in the distribution to get it worldwide. And so for us, we're staying focused on that. We thankfully have had the resources to do it because the company's been very profitable. Steve Young here is our CFO. When we first arrived, it was in the planner business and so forth, and it was not profitable. The company had a lot of debt, but today it has no debt, no net debt, generates lots of cash flow and gives us the opportunity to reinvest in the business and to double down our investments on being the best. We have strong growth drivers in terms of both content, the All Access Pass, our education business, and the growth of our sales force. We have, me excluded, we have a very strong management team and board. But we really do have a remarkable board made up, Clayton Christensen from the Harvard Business School on the board, Joel Peterson, Stanford Business School, head of our audit committee is the former chief financial officer for Walmart, one of the division presidents at AT&T as a board member. And so we've assembled a group that, again, likewise recognizes the importance of the topic, who have had lots of experience in it, and we think we can make an impact. So we're grateful to each of you for joining us today. We feel like we're now kind of, although it's grown rapidly for the last number of years, that we're really kind of at an inflection point where our impact on our clients and their ability to partner with us will strengthen as we go forward. So thank you very much. I don't know if there's time for questions, or I don't know if there are questions, but delighted to respond if there are. Yes, thanks.
Hi, I'm Tom Dretler from Shorelight Education, and I believe you're local, right? This is your Salt Lake City company, and we're so impressed, I think, for a lot of us who haven't either been in the city or spent a bunch of time here, about the innovation culture here. How does the fact that this company is based here, when you're talking about your management team and some of your growth plans, how does the location impact the success of the organization?
Yeah, I'd say this. Today, the vast majority of all the people who work for FranklinCovey do not work here. So of the thousands that work for FranklinCovey around the world, there are only 200 here. But I think the impact of starting here was a critical thing. And I think the access to the kind of workforce that's here, the highly educated, highly motivated, whatever it takes kind of workforce, the technology, the access to technology, which is, as you know, is actually quite deep here, has been a great thing for us as we've made the transition to being, huge investments in technology, et cetera. So we view this as a great place. We don't feel like we have to go outside here, even though we have plenty of, we have big offices in India where there's also a technology hub. We have, people elsewhere, but this is the kind of the work ethic, et cetera, here is a great place to, it's a great place to be based. Thanks.
Hey, Bob.
Hello,
Great to see
Curtis.
you.
How you doing?
Good. What do you view as the biggest growth drivers in the future?
For us, I think the single biggest growth driver will be the expansion of the business within our existing customer base. I'd say that's the single biggest thing because they're now finding they can use our content, they can access all of our content, and so I think the biggest single driver will be the growth of the use of our existing customers and the almost 100% renewal of revenue that comes from them year after year after year. The second is the growth of our sales force, which we're committed. We have a net 30 addition commitment. We've kind of missed it a little bit, 26 or 28, but we're kind of in that zip code of adding 30 net new salespeople in our own direct offices every year and another 30 or so in the licensee offices. And the third then, of course, is this international growth of our international partner network. They'll, like I said, they've gone from 20 million or so a few years ago to almost 100 million this year. They'll probably reach 200 by 2020 or so. So those are kind of the three growth drivers. But mainly it's just filling needs that our clients have. Thanks, Curtis. Curtis was an example of the talent that's in this market. It helped us a ton in the early years. Thanks, Curtis. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you.